How do we know who we are? Well, my parents tell me I'm great at everything I do and that I'm their favorite son, probably because I'm their only son. My supervisor tells me I'm organized and on top of things. And BuzzFeed quizzes, which I know you all have wasted time taking too. BuzzFeed quizzes tell me that my favorite Starbucks drink means I'm a child. I should live in Miami because I'm the life of the party. And that if I were a Disney princess, I would be Sleeping Beauty. Which might be kind of accurate based on the amount of sleep I like to get. And for the longest time, that worked for me. I was okay with letting other people tell me who I was. And that might work for you for now. Maybe you want to be defined by what your teachers say or parents tell you or which Disney princess you are. And that's okay. But I think we need to remember that our deepest sense of self has to come from within. Nobody knows you better than you know yourself, and no one sees the growth and transformation that you go through more than you do. We need to ground ourselves in who we know we are. I know that I am a gay, half Chinese, half white male born and raised in Long Beach, California. I'm a son, a brother, an educator, a PhD candidate, a mentor, a friend, and so much more. It was about 2 years ago that I learned to press pause and started to understand myself and my story more clearly. I was at a weekend retreat while working at Oxford College of Emory University, hosted by our campus chaplain. The instructions for the activity he gave us were simple. Write in the journal provided to us and answer the following 4 questions. That's my name. Following 4 questions. What teaches you? How do you make meaning? What really matters to you? And how do you move in the world? Let those sink in. As I sat there at the retreat site overlooking this beautiful lake, something was triggered in me, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I realized in that moment I had never taken the time to pause and reflect on those questions, on my life, on my story. From then on, journaling for me became a regular activity. It was a peaceful time of quiet self-reflection where it was just me, my pen, and my thoughts. I wrote about my past, my present, my future, my hopes and dreams, and that's when I started to understand my story more clearly. When I went away to college, I ended up at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Keep in mind, I am from Southern California, had never lived anywhere else, knew no one on the whole East Coast. I knew no one outside of California at that point. I hopped off the plane for the first time and I thought to myself, what the hell have I gotten myself into? It was about 100 degrees outside and I had never experienced humidity. It was quite the transition and I was homesick, lonely, and afraid. Think about a time when you were uncomfortable. How many of you say, I'd really like to go back to that place right now? Raise your hand if you enjoy being uncomfortable. A few of you, we'll talk later. What teaches you? So, I think it's those times that we lean into discomfort, that we learn a lot about ourselves and who we are. Step out of your comfort zone, do something new, and don't shy away from discomfort. I went into college wanting to step out and do as much as possible, so naturally I went to the student activities fair during orientation. As I walked around signing up for everything, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? I saw the Emory Chinese Student Association. I excitedly ran up, signed my name, and exclaimed, "Hey, I'm Chinese too." All I got in return were blank stares. Was I not Chinese? Did I not look Asian enough? Was I not allowed to join the club? All of these questions danced through my head as I tried to figure out what had just happened. I had never experienced such dissonance before, but it was through this dissonance that I learned a lot about myself. I found a new sense of identity in being a biracial person and helped start a group for mixed-race students at the university. It was important for me to create that space for myself and for others to be able to express ourselves. And that happened because I stepped out and faced an uncomfortable situation. So what teaches us? Dissonance teaches us. Discomfort teaches us. Fear teaches us. As I went away to college, being away from home wasn't the only thing I feared. I was still struggling with the fact that I was gay and that I didn't want anyone to know my secret. Well, I guess in my mind it was a secret, but according to all of my friends, they always knew. So I must not be great at keeping secrets. Coming out to my friends and family was easy, and I'm very lucky to be surrounded by loving and supportive people. It wasn't until years later that one of my students who worked for me disrupted that status quo. How do you make meaning? It was late one night that the student I just mentioned was in my office just chatting about life when we got on the topic of religion and homosexuality. How many of you have had a conversation with someone who believes something completely opposite of you? How did that go? The student was very honest with me. He would not come to my wedding if I were to invite him. He thought my being gay was a choice. And I'm not here to tell you that I think he was wrong. He was raised to believe those things. He shared his background and his perspective and his experience with me, just as I shared mine with him. And we both admitted that at the end of the conversation, despite our deep differences and disagreement, we felt closer. When we make meaning, we need to make it in relation to others. We all come from different backgrounds that help shape our worldview. So be open to growing and changing your mind and shaping and reshaping your worldview as you engage with others about their experience. I wrote to that student recently to ask permission to use the story in this talk today. He said, "Of course you have my permission. That was one of the most important conversations that I had in college." He went on to say that although he doesn't know exactly where he stands now, he acknowledges that he can't look at things from just one perspective. And he said that he would attend my wedding if I invited him. And that blew me away and reminded me of why I do the work I do, which brings me to the next question. What really matters to you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Besides your alarm clock or your parents or roommates shaking you awake because you're late again, which of course has never happened to me. What motivates you? What drives you to study or to do the work you're doing? What is the impact you're having on the world? When I say world, I don't mean you need to impact the entire globe, but what is the impact you have on your world? I work in higher education and student affairs, so at the end of the day, on a global scale, I know that I'm only impacting a small subset of students at one particular campus, and I'm okay with that. I tell myself each day, if I've positively impacted the life of at least one student that day, then I've done my job. Because that is where I find my energy and my passion, and that is what really matters to me. So what really matters to you? Not to your parents, or your teachers, or your friends, to you. Only you know what you are truly passionate about. So at the end of the day, follow your heart. Do what you love, and love what you do. How do you move in the world? I saved this question for last because I remember exactly what I wrote on the lake at the retreat in my first journal 2 years ago. I said, "I think I move too quickly." I think we all move too quickly. I think we're so often caught up in our daily lives that we only think about what is happening at this second or minute or hour or earlier today or yesterday. And oh my gosh, he didn't text me back yet. It's been 2 minutes. And the he said, she said, rumor has it, XOXO, gossip girl. Did you see that tweet? What filter should I use? OMG, how many likes did I get on that Facebook status? Hashtag pause. That's, thank you. And I'm guilty of that too, don't get me wrong. But I want to challenge you and challenge myself. What we don't do enough is that we don't take the time to pause and reflect on what we've been through. And we don't take the time to pause and ask others what they've been through. Mahatma Gandhi said, "There is more to life than increasing its speed." So press pause and slow down. Tell your story. Write your story. Be heard. There's a human behind those experiences. You're not just a face in the crowd. Reflect on your life and help others reflect on theirs. Discover who you are. And if you ever need a place to start, do what I did. Grab a journal, grab a pen, and ask yourself the following 4 questions. What teaches you? How do you make meaning? What really matters to you? And how do you move in the world? Take time to press pause.